Hello and welcome to another episode of Onc Now, our oncology podcast series. I'm your host, Dr. Jonathan Sackier, and in each episode I have the pleasure of speaking with leading voices in the field of oncology. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Lennard Lee. Dr. Lee is an accomplished cancer physician from the University of Oxford and a national leader in advancing healthcare innovation. With a passion for mRNA cancer vaccines, the good doctors delivered major strategic projects that have shaped cancer care, diagnostics, and vaccine research across the United Kingdom. Throughout his career, Dr. Lee has led groundbreaking national initiatives such as founding the UK COVID Cancer Programme aimed at safeguarding cancer patients during the COVID pandemic. He co-founded the NHS Cancer Vaccine Launchpad and is leading a national advance aiming to provide up to 10,000 patients with personalised cancer treatments in the UK by 2030. Stay with us as we explore his remarkable journey, his vision for the future of cancer research, and how large-scale collaboration can accelerate life-saving innovation. It's a real privilege to welcome Dr. Lennard Lee to the podcast. So, Dr. Lennard Lee, a real privilege and pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Jonathan. It's good to be here. Thanks for welcoming to your podcast. It's very exciting.
You're welcome. And as I was saying just before we got on, we both seem to be speaking to each other from the jungle.
Exactly. On exactly the same side. It's almost
Yeah,
perfect.
exactly. That's kind of freaky. We didn't arrange that beforehand. So I'd like to start with some quick fire questions to sort of get to know you and sort of warm you up. Um, what one innovation in cancer care do you believe is going to transform outcomes in the next 5 years? Your field has already gone through a phenomenal transformation in my professional lifetime.
Yeah. So the one innovation, well, it's got to be the obvious one, the one that we're actually very, very good at in the UK, where oncology is knocking out of the park at the moment, it's got to be the world of cancer vaccines. The ability to take new technologies, combine them, and make a new product. So we've had genomics, the revolution's come through, AI's come through, and actually what's been amazing over the last few years is that we've seen huge advances in being able to make vaccines. So put that all together, focus it on the great need, and you've got this new concept here of cancer vaccines, which are, I feel very confident this is going to change the treatment landscape. This is going to move us from technology to patient benefit and actually start to change lives and potentially help us come to that future of immunity for cancer. So, cancer vaccines.
Well, we're going to dig into that in quite some detail. Um, Next one for you. What's one lesson from the pandemic that the cancer care community mustn't forget?
Speed and coordination are possible when lives are at stake. We can really build platforms now, share data, and launch trials in record time. Research moves on. We used to believe it should take 10 years for something to happen, maybe 20 years. Let's be careful because drug development takes that long. We can take our time and be slow. But actually, what we can show is that when the community activates, does it quickly. What used to take decades can now take a few years. And we're already seeing this happen in the cancer community in the UK and definitely in this cancer vaccine space.
Yeah. One of the prior guests we've had on the podcast, a guy named Mervyn Singer, who's a critical care doctor at UCL and a dear chum. He was involved during COVID in he was never a believer that we needed ventilators, but we needed ventilation, and he came up with the concept of using CPAP machines, and he went from a design to a manufactured product approved by MHRA in 1 week, and that was just because of sheer, taking advantage of the environment. So I think your point is a great one. Speed. I'm with you because patients' lives are at risk every time we're faffing about and spending 10 years. What's a common misconception about cancer research that you wish more people understood?
I think the biggest misconception is that it doesn't matter, um, and that we've got more important things to worry about. The waiting list, seeing people quickly, diagnoses, patient complaints, digital apps, all this. But the reality is, healthcare must improve. You want the people who get cancer in 10 years' time to have a better life than they have now. You want your children to have better life. And actually, that's the nature of cancer care. It gets better over time. So the misconception is that research doesn't matter. That's completely crazy. Research is very much part of cancer care. We do it because the future can be better, and that's everything we push for as oncologists. So I think the most important thing to say is that yes, by all means, focus on the waiting list, focus on the budgets, stop the doctors striking, improve patient care. But actually, you need to remember that actually cancer research not only creates jobs for your children, it supercharges the economy, but ultimately it changes lives. And that's the main thing about it that everyone's got to remember. It's often forgotten amongst all the noise that's out there at the moment.
Yeah, well said. So that takes me very nicely to my next quickfire question for you. You've mentioned many things that fall within the remit of governments. Let's helicopter you into number 10 Downing Street. You've got 1 minute with the Prime Minister. 1 minute. What would you urge him to prioritize in cancer care?
Well, this is definitely an easy one, Jonathan. I think I will grab him and tell him be the first place in the world where cancer vaccines are deployed. We've already proved our country to be fantastically good at pandemic vaccines. The MHRA moves first in the world outside of clinical trials. Margaret Keenan, Brian Pinker, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines. Now do it for cancer. It's all very well the cancer community unlocking all this capabilities, accelerating all the trials, getting the first in the world. But you want to be the first country to give it to a patient. You want to change a life outside clinical trials. So do that. We've got the tools. The trials are going really well. So take that final step and actually get the NHS flags up, get the nurses, get the patient out there again, and put that infusion in and do it for the first in the world. Easy question.
Well, I suggest you need to get your butt to Westminster and have that conversation. Great answers. Let's dive into some longer questions exploring your career research work and perspectives on oncology. So, you've led major national health initiatives like the UK COVID Cancer Programme and the NHS National Health Service Galleri study. Talk us through these two programs, how they came about, and what they entailed.
Thanks, Jonathan. I think, quite a lot of what you do is based on luck, and actually, I've been very lucky to be at the right place at the right time. And actually, these projects are great people which pulled it together. So, why don't I go through them? Um, I was being redeployed. I was told, stop your cancer care, go down to A&E in 2020. Before that, I was your runner for your mill academic, doing the lab sciences, curing cancer in mice, understanding gene drivers and metastases, all the standard stuff. And in 2020, we just had to answer one question. Do you stop cancer care in the pandemic? And that's what the Chinese did, and that's what the Italians did, and the government said, and cancer services shut down in many countries. I guess in the UK, it's really interesting because we kind of been taught to think, haven't we? And so the question that what we decided was actually we'll create a data program. We will link every single cancer centre in the UK and get them all to put their data together and work out how do you deliver safe care in the pandemic. Um, the pandemic started in March. By May, by linking all the data sets, we knew that it wasn't chemotherapy that was killing anyone. It didn't really have much of an effect at all, if any. It was other things like your age, your ethnicity, your comorbidities, and having chemotherapy didn't really have any effect that we could see. Um, so we put together, I think it was, and then we linked up the entire UK data set. So we've got about 400,000 people in our ecosystem, and we then tracked them all. We could see what treatments were causing issues, what treatments weren't causing, who was going to ITU. And we basically answered the question for the world from the UK, what does safe cancer care look like? I'm really proud. There were like hundreds of people. I think it was nearly 250 in the end. Jonathan was contributing data. It shows the power of the UK data. Um, and actually, you saw the chemotherapy level, which was like in 2020, just go drop off a cliff where patients didn't want to be treated with chemotherapy. Doctors weren't confident to give it. We had national guidelines saying it's dangerous. And as soon as we publish, bang, straight back up. The Europeans start prescribing again. The Americans start prescribing. And lo and behold, within 3 months, we got chemotherapy back up to normal levels, and that continued during the whole pandemic. And I'm kind of quite proud that actually the UK did its part, found the data to show what was safe. And you look back and you could have made the argument that in a major global pandemic, don't give chemotherapy, but the data didn't show that, and we followed the data. So that was a fantastic project. It was showed what's possible when you've got grassroots movements which move policy.
Sure. And was the just going back to that and coming as it from a different perspective, were the data presumably on decline or reduced survival rates because people didn't get chemo for a period of time?
Yeah, so thankfully, not that many people are affected, but definitely people were. And you're right, Jonathan. It makes sense, doesn't it? If you tell people to stay at home and don't have cancer care, cancer only ever does one thing, and the outcome only goes one way. And therefore, for anyone with a cancer diagnosis to worry about, they should come forward. They should get treatment. They should have confidence in our ecosystem and the healthcare system we've created. And actually, that's what happened. So that was a lovely piece of collaborative work of over 300 people contributing data for the greater good, and it was great leadership in terms of the UK and our data system. We followed the evidence and we followed the data.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, in my introduction and in your first few questions, you've talked about cancer vaccines, game changing frontier. Can you take us on a journey? Walk us through where we are right now in terms of feasibility, trials. When are the public going to have access to these vaccines? What can they do? What can't they do? What are the timelines? Floor is yours.
Okay. So I think this is a game-changing frontier and something to be really excited about. So where we're right now, I think the world is going to be in a position where one country will approve this in the next 6 months. So maybe by the end of the year, maybe this starts next year, and that's incredible. And why do I say this? Well, there's only three stages of a clinical trial. Phase one, are they safe? They've gone over since 2020. All the technology is now pivoting into the cancer space. So what we used to treat infectious diseases is now moving to cancer sphere because we know that this is possible. So the pass all safety studies, there's hundreds of products going through safety at the moment. You've got a few which are getting the phase two readouts, and actually there's one study that's almost has completed phase three, and we're just looking for the readout now. It's a study against skin cancer, and it is a personalized vaccine. So everyone got a vaccine generated for their cancer. Um, so 6 months basically from the first readout, and then we'll have to look at which country is brave enough to take that leap and actually deploy that across their ecosystem.
So
Um,
that I'm sorry to interrupt your flow, and I want you to pick up again, but that's a personalized vaccine for which type of skin cancers?
So it is post-surgical skin cancers. Not metastatics and not stage four, but
Right.
stage threes or stage three cancer, where they've spread a little bit. The surgeons think they've got most of it, but what you're trying to do at the moment is trying to work out what's the likelihood of that cancer coming back, and is a vaccine going to help in that situation?
So these squames, melanomas.
So it's in melanomas. The squamous hasn't been done, although those trials are ongoing at the moment. So they're a bit behind, but they'll read out very short soon after.
Okay. All right. So I'm sorry to interrupt your flow. Okay, pick it up again.
That's okay. It's pretty interesting. Why do I like it? Well, it's because it's personalised. What do I mean by that? Well, when we had our vaccines, we everyone got the same. Everyone in the country, all the childhood ones, everyone got the same. Um, but because of all the investment that happened over the last 5 years, um, we now know that manufacturing cost is quite cheap. It's come down in price because we've worked out exactly all the incremental achievements to make manufacturing cheaper. So these cancer vaccines are personalized to the mutation seen in that cancer and also a patient's immune system. So actually, that's quite science fiction because no two people get the same drug. You're getting a vaccine to stimulate your immune system against your cancer only. So that's really quite exciting. Um, yeah. So 6 months basically.
And so a readout in 6 months, so it could be a couple of years before it's deployed.
Yeah, that's a big unknown, isn't it, Jonathan? Because when our country wants to move, it can move. When it's got the right leadership, it does. So I mean, if you wind back the clock a few years, we were getting regulatory approval and first dosing NHS in a very, very short space of time. We used to believe that that would take a 6-month process, a 9-month process, and the NHS would take a few more years to do it later on. But actually, at that time point, there was the confidence to get things going. And actually, when you think about it, it's a vaccine. It's not like a complex treatment. I mean, if there's one thing the NHS can do really well, it is deploy vaccines at scale very quickly because all the infrastructure is there. So
Mhm.
I guess if you're a pessimist, you'll say it'll be 2 years until the NHS goes and we'll be after Europe, after America. But actually, I'm a bit more optimistic. The NHS can do one thing very well, and that is deploy vaccines across the nation if it needs to, if it wants to. Obviously, it depends on how they're doing at the moment, but it's possible it could be quite quick.
And what cancers will follow this trial? What would be next off the starting block?
There are quite a few actually, Jonathan. That's what's exciting because the UK Advance aim to do three things. 10,000 patients through trials across multiple subtypes to stimulate global advance. And so what I'm seeing at the moment was that this was first of the block, melanoma, but you've also got cancer vaccine trials ongoing across major European and American centers in lung cancer, bowel cancer, pancreatic cancer, head and neck cancers. And these are the ones which are pushing very, very quickly. And then behind that, you've got the bladder and the breast cancers along the way too. But there are multiple subtypes. And what makes me quite excited and humbled as oncologist is that all that investment and knowledge expertise seen is moved directly into the cancer space. And actually, you're seeing trials pop up continuously across the subtype. So if everything goes well and this reads out well, then you'll see an acceleration of other trials behind it, and that pipeline may start to speed up.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So, as someone who bridges clinical practice, academia, and government advisory roles, how do you navigate the very palpable tension between research ambitions, patient centered care, and the realities of policy? Because I can tell you, I couldn't do it. I just don't have the patience. I would just be telling people, I'd be asking for forgiveness rather than permission. I'm not a politician.
I don't think I'm a politician. I see myself as a doctor, but I do think myself very lucky to be able to advise because you get caught up every so often and you've got to be able to leave your job, leave your patients for a bit, or reduce it and step into these roles. Um, I mean, I'm a big optimist because I believe that actually people want to do good in the world. I think they're fantastic people in government, in academia, and they're not just worried about papers or headlines or I don't know some shenanigans or whatever they're up to. They want to help people, and actually that's a very noble thing that we do in the NHS in cancer care. We want to give people more time. Um, we want them to get to Christmas. And we want to go to next Christmas, see their grandchildren too, see grandchildren being born. And actually, if you take it back to what you're trying to do here, which is to change lives, and most people understand that very quickly, um, you've got to keep saying what needs to be said. So that's tricky because the 1 minute poor government's got to focus on other things, be it a new war, a new trade crisis. But actually, you just need to say the right thing is to go where you're good at. This is how you change your population's health. This is how you create the win-win here. And if you've got to try and make it so people are willing to come to the table and excited about what they do. Um, so I think it's those things really. Take it back to the patients. Um, Always come back to what's possible and practical, and bring people together. If you do all those three things, you can't really go wrong. And I bet, Jonathan, if you tried it, you'd be fantastic at it too.
Yeah, well, that's very sweet of you. I know my forays into public policy things. I'm very impatient, and I struggle when I hear, "Oh, the phase 3 is read out, it's positive, and the drug should hit the market in 2 years." That's why I said 2 years, and I was like, "Come on, there's people suffering now. Let's, put the pedal to." But I'm a surgeon. I've got that kind of mentality, I guess. Um, so you've talked up the UK, and I've practiced on both sides of the duck pond. I think there are some things we do very well here, and I think we do screening pretty darn well. I've been talking to some of your colleagues about lung cancer screening, and of course, there's HPV, colonoscopies. I think the Americans do better, frankly, than we do here. But the UK's made bold moves in early detection and tech-driven screening. So, can you speak a little bit about what role you see data science and artificial intelligence playing in the next generation of national cancer screening strategies?
It's really important, isn't it? If you're not taking new technologies through, then you've got the status quo, which is people still ending up in A&E with a cancer, which what they thought was just constipation or diarrhea. Hard to get cancers like ovarian cancers being missed. This is not a great situation. And actually, technology is going to play a role in this one. I think one of the studies I'm most proud of is the NHS Galleri study, which was that blood test for cancer. Um, the idea here was that if you did a blood test on people at a certain age, a simple blood draw, you can check for circulating free DNA and give them early cancer diagnosis. Um, it was incredible because actually this was something that people were willing to do. Just turn up, and this was done in the community too, Jonathan. So we were setting up testing centres, trial centres in supermarkets, by your Sainsbury's, by your Aldi, so you could pop in on your way to get a supermarket shop, and that worked really well. Um, the UK showed itself to be a world leader in this space. So when the companies went around trying to work out who could randomise 140,000 people in a year, they only believed that the UK could do it, and we did it. We did it. We randomized those studies, and that's now in follow up at the moment. Um, it's fascinating because it uses one of the earliest forms of AI, um, and we're going to see that results in the next 2 years or so to show how good this particular technology was. But what it taught me was the UK is really good at activating entire healthcare systems simultaneously, if it wants to. So I was really proud. Our team opened 56 cancer centres within a period of just over 2 months. Bang,
Well,
bang, bang, really quickly, getting them to collaborate because people see themselves as NHS willing to pull together for this trial, which was the NHS Galleri study, and that was really powerful actually. So that's why I think we should be making a play. I also think the next generation AI is even better now. So what does that mean? What it means: real-time dashboards, adaptive clinical trials, maybe some digital twins, maybe pumping all the genomics into one area so it can learn. And ultimately, it's all about amplifying the brilliance of our clinicians and helping them spot things, using molecular tests too. It's all possible. We just
yeah,
need the ambition to play in this space.
yeah, yeah. Well said. Um, and like I say, that is one thing that we do well. I mentioned colonoscopy or colon cancer screening, and they send out the fit test for people based on an age, but access to colonoscopy is something that needs to be addressed, and the speed with which people get seen. I'm just noticing something. The entire period of time we've been talking, you've had a smile on your face the whole time. You exude this fantastic energy, and you have this can-do attitude, which is palpable. And my philosophy, Leonard, has been that we're the most privileged people on the planet to do this for a living. It's kind of like professional. I love football, and I've friends who are professional football players, and they say, "I can't believe I get paid to do this. I would do it for nothing. I get to play football with my mates every week, um, and we get to do this." There's a lot of negativity in the profession at the moment. People talking about burnout and this and that and the other. You don't exude any of that. You've just got this boundless enthusiasm. How this is I'm going right off the reservation here. How do you take your energy and get your colleagues to chivvy up and say, "Come on now, knuckle down"? I don't want to minimize people who are dealing with mental health issues. That's not my point. But you have infectious enthusiasm. How do you spread that infection, sir?
We're very lucky, aren't we? Because we serve. Our job is to make people have better lives, to get to where they want to. If it's a marriage they want to see, family they want to see, and that is a privilege, isn't it? We are given a privilege to serve other people, and actually we're lucky to that the taxpayer and government believes that's important. You're right. I think there is a lot of negativity, and I think the issue is that we're focusing on the wrong things, aren't we? We should be actually helping, empowering people work out what gives them value, what makes them feel proud. I mean, no one should go to work feeling that they're not doing a good job because everyone goes to a job because they've got purpose and mission here.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of missing at the moment. We probably battered the profession too hard out recently. Um, I don't think anyone wants to fail. They need the resource to do that. I also think we should be empowering people too. Because supposing they go to you, Jonathan, and say, Jonathan, what do you need to make your service a success? You can take anything you wanted. I don't know if we can't promise you money, but take the technology, try it, and go. What would happen if we innovate that way? I think that's what we started to do. And also, look, there are loads of people up and down bringing the waiting list down. Like I can point to my local hospital. They're inching away at this, but they're not failing, Jonathan. They are winning. Like
Yeah.
they are bringing it down month by month. And if that sustains itself and you stop people, you keep people in the job feeling proud of their job, you'll get that extra 10%. You'll get there. And we're missing this from the equation completely. All we hear is that the NHS is failing, it provides bad care, and that becomes self-fulfilling because people
Yeah.
leave.
It's like the advice you give your children. If you think you're going to be a success or you think you're going to be a failure, you're right. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I remember in the States, I once went and spoke to the American Congress about one particular issue. And a member of their esteemed house said, "What can we do to best help you?" And I said, "Nothing. Stop helping me. Get out the way. Stop putting legislation and regulations. Just let me do my job, and if we fail to do our job, then, by all means, impose constraints. But let us do our job, because the vast majority of people in healthcare, doctors, nurses, occupational therapists, pharmacists, are, as you say, good people who come to work wanting to help people." So I'm sorry that we kind of went sidelines. I want to go back to your work with pandemic response and beyond. How do you define success in public health innovation? And how should we be measuring it? I mean, there's some obvious ones, lives saved or whatever, but your perspective.
Yeah, it's a good one, isn't it? Because you're right. At the end of the day, it's about life saves, life made better, real world impact at scale. But when you look back, there were things that we did really, really well, like data flows. Do you remember that? Whereby the NHS data was being analysed by the Israelis, the Mexicans, the Indians, the Chinese on what safe cancer care was.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. And actually that was data which is no longer stamp collecting, because up to that point, let's be honest, it was stamp collecting for the sake of it. It
Well,
wasn't done for the purpose of changing health. So I think that was a good success story when the capabilities were turned on. Um, but then are they being turned off now? I think that's a bit of a worrying, if it, because some people tell me you can't access data very easily anymore, so you can't make the next innovations. So
well,
that's one. Um, I think that's a really important one. What else? Oh, confidence. No one would have thought that UK will be the best place to work for clinical trials. There's so many naysayers saying we're not very good. There are other countries better. The Chinese do it better, therefore let's not try. But when push comes to shove and nations are tested and you've got the good leadership, we went really fast. So that's another positive thing, isn't it? Because trials bring in money, new drugs, change patients' lives. So that's a fantastic one too. Confidence, data flows. Um, yeah, I think it was bravery, because I mean, who would possibly make the punt that a UK-based vaccine could reach 1 billion lives? But it did.
mhm.
That bravery to just try. It's probably what makes Great Britain great, doesn't it? That we've got bravery to try, even though when it sounds completely crazy, we'll give it a go, and that's
Yeah.
what we need more of.
Well, I want to circle back to vaccines, and I have a nub of a concern, um, a barrier, if you will. I was going to say to you, what do you think is the biggest barrier to the widespread adoption of cancer vaccines from a scientific perspective? And I want you to answer that, but I also want you to help me understand how you are going to address the so-called vaccine hesitancy debate, which every time I hear it, I twitch uncontrollably, because it's nonsense.
Yeah.
It's nonsense. It's not based in scientific fact. It's inspired by one fallacious paper from 27 years ago. And as I'm talking to you, the United States is seeing a resurgence of measles, a resurgence of pertussis, a resurgence of polio, because people aren't getting vaccinated. So how are they going to adopt cancer vaccines? So please talk about the scientific barriers and then address the societal ones.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? And we shouldn't have children getting predictable diseases, preventable diseases, especially when it's going to impact their lives. And some of them may not survive these illnesses. Where we are in 2025, we're not in the 1950s. So that's crazy. Okay, so scientific perspective, probably three areas which will stop the adoption of cancer vaccines. Number one, can we predict the targets right? Because we know that we can make vaccines, we can target any bit of abnormality seen, any bit of cancer can be targeted, but a cancer's got 10,000 abnormalities. So, number one, we know much better cancer vaccine design. First generations be good, second will be better, third will be much, much better. That's the first bit. The second bit is can a manufacturer individualize? So, if you've got 10,000 patients, you need 10,000 vaccines. Can we scale downwards now? I think the answer to that's probably yes, but we're about to see the answer in 2026. Can people scale downwards so that you make lots of personalized vaccines? Um, and the third one is probably around can we reconfigure the NHS supply chain? Because at the moment, if I need a drug, I'll just go to the pharmacy, they'll grab one off the shelf, and there's thousands of the drugs, all exactly the same. Doesn't matter, just grab anyone, it's fine. But can the best healthcare system say, actually, I will send off your genetic data, this will go to a manufacturing plant, which will send one vial back, and it goes only to you. That's probably the three perspectives from a scientific perspective. Um, but I guess you asked for the bigger picture, didn't you, Jonathan? You want to know what the wider issues are.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is that what happens if people in their minds connect infectious diseases vaccines with cancer vaccines? What if people see them as the same thing? Um, because cancer vaccines, so people really need it. Without these treatments, without their benefit, they're back to the normal standards of care, which may not be as effective. And on top of that, people choose to have cancer vaccines because they're in a very difficult situation. So if it's approved, they'll want it. But who are we for society to say that this country will not be a vaccine country? Um, and I think that's a challenging thing. Um, yeah,
I want to throw something out. It's a bit of a curveball,
go on.
as they say in the United States. Many years ago, there was an airline that had an accident, I believe in the Florida Everglades, due to bad loading of the airplane, and the airplane crashed and lives were lost. And there was a massive lawsuit of inevitably. And the airline kind of stopped operating for a while. Then it came back and they changed their name. It was
Yes,
a rebrand, which is something that's happens quite a lot in the consumer world. The word vaccine comes from vacari, meaning cow, for the whole Jenner thing with smallpox and chicken and cowpox. What about calling them something different so that the vaccine hesitancy crowd don't defeat you before you even start?
makes sense, doesn't it, Jonathan?
Just a thought.
Something else. We need to call it something else. You're right.
Yeah,
Something that clearly differentiates this as a treatment.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
What have I not asked you, Leonard, that I could have asked you? And if I have asked you everything you wanted to be asked, can you come up like with a pithy one liner? What if there's one thing that people listening to this should take away and go, ha, what would that one thing be?
I think they should be really proud of Europe, the UK, and cancer care because it is getting better. There was a debate whether cancer community, the cancer research community, can learn from the infectious diseases community about going fast, streamlining, putting patients first. And yeah, they're knocking out the park at the moment, Jonathan. Like the research speed is going well at the moment. So keep doing it, basically. Keep doing it. Know that the work that they're doing is fantastic. Know that lives will change. Scientific progress is advancing and it's advancing the cancer space. And there's a lot to be excited about. And it all starts now, basically.
Fantastic. Dr. Lennard Lee, a real pleasure talking to you. I think I'm going to keep your number on speed dial. And if I'm having a crappy day and I need to be cheered up, I'll just call you because I tell people I like to go to bed less stupid. You're, like I say, you've got an infectious smile and your enthusiasm for your specialty is palpable. Thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks very much.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Onc Now, our bi-weekly podcast. If you did enjoy it, please consider subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And please like us on social media and tell your friends and colleagues. And check out our archives because they're growing. And please join us in 2 weeks for another fascinating episode. Until then, I'm your host, Dr. Jonathan Sackier. Please, everyone, stay safe, stay well, stay curious. Bye for now.